C'est bon? Oui, on va commencer. Bien. Bon, oui, vas-y.
Nous clôturons pour aujourd'hui avec une rencontre basée sur les thèmes qui ont marqué le FIFO, le peuple aborigène. Cette rencontre sera menée par Dean Gibson, Anusha Duray, Zubrycki, Julia Overton, une discussion modérée par Wallès Kotra.
Bien, ben bonjour à tous. Bonjour aussi aux internautes qui sont avec nous. Comme ça a été annoncé, cette table ronde s'inscrit dans les grands thèmes qui ont marqué le FIFO pendant 20 ans. Comme la question de l'environnement, comme la question du genre, comme aussi le nucléaire, par exemple, ou la place des femmes, etc. Et là, pendant 20 ans, la question aborigène a toujours été présente tous les ans. Tous les ans. Et, alors, parfois, c'est pour parler de la peinture ou pour parler d'un groupe de musique, mais la plupart du temps, ce sont des blessures qui sont racontées. Ce sont des blessures. C'est une tragédie qui est racontée avec le regard des réalisateurs, etc., chaque année, etc. Donc on est là pour parler de cela, et dire pourquoi il y a cette blessure-là au milieu de nous, dans l'Océanie, blessure, voilà, et comment il faut en parler, avec son expérience, l'expérience de chacun. Et donc autour de nous, donc, il y a 3 personnes qui vont nous aider à comprendre tout cela. Donc je propose qu'on se présente d'abord. Peut-être on commence par Anusha Duray, qui est d'une télévision aborigène, qui raconte un peu ce qu'est cette télévision aborigène, une ITV, et puis qu'est-ce que vous faites. Et puis après, on abordera ensuite la question de comment on médiatise, comment on raconte, voilà. Mais Anusha d'abord.
Good morning. So lovely to be here once again at FIFO and this big celebration. I think prior to coming over here, I did an interview online with FIFO, and one of the questions I was asked was, why is FIFO important to us? So I work for National Indigenous Television Australia, and my response to that question was because you always give importance to us. So I've been lucky to come to FIFO so many times now as part of the colleague, and every single time I've been here, there's been an Indigenous Australian film, mainly premieres in competition, have won, and so FIFO is very important to us because you give importance to us and our stories, and it's loved and very respected. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Anusha. Est-ce que tu peux dire un mot sur ce que c'est que cette télévision aborigène en Australie?
So NITV we've just in December celebrated our 10 years as free to air. We have existed longer than that. However, that was through Foxtel, which was through a pay TV model. And so in December, we had a large celebration to celebrate being 10 years free to air. NITV exists because in 1996 there was a report done by the government into deaths in custody. And from that report, it found that a lot of the deaths and murders were directly involved with our representation in the media, and so there was a crucial need for us to have proper representation. And it was from that a kind of a political movement started by a lot of our leaders, a lot of our filmmakers, to go to Parliament and essentially start this channel. So we were born out of necessity because what was happening to our people, and people were literally dying. So that's why we exist. We haven't had a change in budget in that whole time, so we have a very small budget compared to any of the other public broadcasters. But in that time, we've grown, and been able to do some incredible things and win some incredible awards. Dean, who's sitting here on the panel, his film won a Logie, and I believe that was the first Indigenous to ever win. We also won a Logie for our children's cartoon series, Little J Big Cuz. So for a really kind of small mouse in the market, we really pack a punch and have done so well internationally, and have grown, I think, in a proper way of, you know, learning our craft, learning to know our feet, so that we can, for such small money, create some really important content, whether it's call to arms documentary of you know, highlighting injustice, or, you know, beautiful animations that are made for our kids and that are so important. Like, you know, that I think it's in 30 different Indigenous dialects, Little J Big Cuz, so all our children can see it in their languages, well, most of them. It's also been translated into multiple international languages. So we're very proud of what we've achieved. We had our first ever adult drama series go out last year, which was called True Colours, which was not true crime, sorry, crime mystery that did very well for us, and that, I think, holds the record for the most Indigenous language that's ever been in a drama series in Australia. So lots of firsts, and we're very proud. And we did a kind of tween drama series that was based on a book. So, you know, we really we try and make the most of what we can do, and we take our place in the landscape media very seriously, because we know how important it is.
Nous allons continuer peut-être. Le tour de table, les présentations, hein, même si Anusha a commencé à parler du fond et des propositions, peut-être avec Tom Zubrycki. Est-ce que tu peux dire un peu, tu t'es exprimé tout à l'heure ici sur cet espace, mais est-ce que tu peux expliquer un peu ce que tu fais et ta présence ici au FIFO, quoi.
Okay, so I'm here. Okay, I'm here as a producer representing A Blaze, which and also the other film, Senses of Cinema. I was here 10 years ago with a documentary called The Hungry Tide, which was made with people from Kiribati. Also representing a couple of short Indige films for Message Sticks, which was for ABC. My history, I guess, going back in terms of Indigenous production, but the first time I was asked to produce with an Indigenous director was when Darlene Johnson asked me to produce a documentary she wanted to make about David Gaupala, called Gaupala One Red Blood, which I don't think was shown here at FIFO. This is about 20 years ago now, I think just before FIFO started. And then since then I've been asked by a number of Indige First Nation filmmakers to produce films. I produced with filmmaker Grant Saunders, making a film about his country, a film called Teach a Man to Fish, which I think from memory was sold to SBS or ITV.
That was the ITV commission?
I think it was part commission, actually, yeah, at the end, yeah. And I'm actually working with you guys now on a project called Kindred, which I'm co-producing with Gillian Moody, another Indige filmmaker, and this film is in post-production and it will be delivered fairly shortly to you guys. So I've got a bit of a history there, and hopefully it might even be shown next year at FIFO. I mean, I enjoy this kind of collaboration. It's, you know, I can really get involved. I mean, not just raising the budgets, but, you know, providing as much creative input that's respectful and that is relevant, you know, particularly in the post-production stage of a film where it gets close to that critical point of fine cut. But it's for me, I've been here just in terms of my own particular career, just an amazing experience. Working in Australia at that level, you know, based out of my little office in our house in Sydney, and as an independent producer.
Dean, on termine la présentation. Hein, tout à l'heure, tu nous as parlé un peu de... Voilà, tu es ici avec un film qui est fort. Mais peut-être d'abord, rappeler ce que tu as fait et comment c'est arrivé à ce film, Incarceration Nation.
Thank you again for having me here. And I think Anusha's made a good... NITV, I guess, played a really key role for me in my career, and it came just at the right time when I had graduated from film school, and there was an understanding that more First Nation Aboriginal voices need to be heard, and we needed to build up a sector. There was a group of people who got some great opportunities, and then there's clearly a void behind that, and that's where I probably got an opportunity around. And I think it's really important probably to note that it played, without NITV, it played a massive role in forming the kind of stories I make and the people I've met and the skills that I've undertaken. And to come here and see all those posters and see so many Aboriginal faces across the posters really reiterated to me how our country can be so different on so many different levels, but clearly there's the themes of the films have such strong roots and translate so easily around whatever topic. There's so many parallels with what's going on for us in Australia and what's going on across the Pacific and across these parts of the world. I started doing films, small films, little things, as a first-time filmmaker, doing my best to get opportunities and meet people and get to know how it all works. And I think I just can't understate how important NITV was for that. And I think the fact that they still have the same budget is kind of disgraceful. How many years on? 15 years on. 15 years on. There'd be no government departments in Australia who after 15 years would be on the same budget. So I think that's a credit to what they are doing. But it's also a fantastic, I guess, building ground for talent and pool. And not just, I guess it's really important in Australia that we are so big. Like, we are so big and so different from the top to the bottom, to the east, to the west, to the central. And within that, there's so many differences. So there's so many different stories that cover the breadth of the nation. It means there's so many different filmmakers and opportunities that can be told through that. And I guess that's a really hard part of what NITV is trying to do, is give that breadth of storytelling and show that all these different areas have a different voice and they're very different, and that's okay, and it's there to be heard, and I think that's the value of that. So again, it's a pleasure to be here and Incarceration Nation, to screen here at FIFO and to follow. Like, I look at that poster over there now and think, wow, to follow in those footsteps, an icon of our industry in Australia. Like, I saw the film about the Duke from Hawaii this morning. I thought, what an icon of that nation. And then I look at that post and think about the icon, and we sort of step in the footsteps that he has tread. And I think how amazing that is.
C'est une sorte de... Comment dire? C'est un cri, finalement. chaque film est un cri pour dire que vous existez, que le peuple aborigène existe, etc. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a une fonction particulière d'un réalisateur quand il est d'un réalisateur aborigène en Australie, aujourd'hui.
I think what was really important that because it is such a tough, almost unspoken topic in Australia across the media, that we had to do it in a, pardon me, do it in a way that punched hard, and I had faith in our communities that we live it and breathe it daily. We read about it, we're affected, we know how to take that hit. And it hurts still. It does not saying it doesn't hurt, but it hurts. But I think it was, we had to show, I wanted to create a film that would be true and real. And I in the edit suite, we wrestled with how hard do we go? Do we punch, or do we taste soft or hard? And we just thought it's the kind of story that couldn't be told without having to be pretty tough and give some honest truths. And I think I'm not going to cast judgment on the people who have lived in Australia before me and said things, but I think we're probably, for me, it feels like it's a time why we have to yell. And there's yelling happening on the streets, there's yelling happening, the other side of politics is yelling as well. So there's a lot of yelling going on, but I want to do it in a way that would yell, but then slow down and just listen to this. Well, I'm going to take you now on a journey back over 200 years to get you back to where we are today, and I'll just gently push you towards the edge into the ocean to swim and understand how hard this will be. And it required a little bit of yelling, but I was just explaining to Tom earlier, I wanted to create a film that would, as an audience, it's like squeezing. It starts with my arm, and over the 90 minutes, it's squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And before you know it, the lights come up and you're grasping or you're short of breath. And ironically, I wanted people to feel that a little bit, and I'm okay with that, and I hope we achieve that.
Peut-être Anusha, sur c'est comment dire, quand le peuple aborigène est tellement minoritaire en Australie, est-ce que finalement le fait qu'il y ait une chaîne consacrée aux aborigènes, est-ce que ça ne les isole pas encore plus? Est-ce qu'il ne faut pas plus exister dans les grandes chaînes australiennes, etc.? C'est quoi la fonction finalement de la télévision aborigène?
I think we absolutely should exist on the mainstream screens, and we are making moves there. It's great to see some of the commercial channels, especially, really kind of leading the way. We had one of our commercial channels recently on the weather map change to our names for country, which was, really big. We've got Narelda Jacobs, who actually works for NITV as well. She now is one of the news anchors there. So that's huge moments for us. And that representation, we know how much it matters, for our kids to visually see ourselves and represented is so important. I mean, that's the reason I got into this whole industry, is because when I was growing up on television, I didn't see anyone that looked like me or my family anywhere. And when you grow up like that and you don't, that has such an impact on your sense of value, your sense of beauty, all of those things. So it can't be underestimated how important it is for us to be seen everywhere. no matter how much we get on the mainstream or how far we can go there, I think it's always important for us to have our own channel, no matter how large our population is, because there has to be stories about us that are for us, that are not, because, you know, when you tell stories, you know, Dean's story is amazing and won a Logie because it is for everyone, it is for an international audience, and he's so wonderfully, and it's so difficult to tell this large story from colonisation, to give everyone this background and get them to the point of where we are now and why this has all happened, and context and holistically. That's such a challenge as a filmmaker. It's really important for us to have a channel that is for us, where you're not always having to bring that audience with, you know, we have a shared understanding and shared knowledge of our history and who we are. I think that's really important, that we have a channel that meets us there. So I think we should absolutely exist and keep growing. And, you know, we have large plans of things that we would love to do in the future. And just, you know, the fact, one of our huge, you know, we wanted a Logie, you know, and thankfully Dean got us one. We wanted a drama series. Like, that's really important to get to those, have those little goals, which seem little to other people, but they're huge when you're doing it on that budget. So I think no matter, that channel should always exist, no matter the population.
And it's probably fair to say that the documentary I made would not be commissioned by any other channel. And that's a really important thing too, that you're prepared to step into the coals and have those hard conversations as well.
Oh, absolutely. And not only would they not be commissioned, and this is the other reason why I think it's so important that we continue to exist, no matter how many filmmakers we have, know how much content, is because, you know, a lot of the other channels have, you know, they've commissioned Indigenous series, they've commissioned Indigenous docos, but they're not going to play them in the premiere slots on their station. It's not going to be highlighted. They're going to maybe get a slot where they know they don't have big audiences. I've sat there with other broadcasters where, you know, that we've shared content with, that we wanted to do, you know, we wanted them to show it because they get a larger audience. And I've had head of programmers just say, oh, you'll never see Indigenous thing in prime time. That won't happen on this channel. So that's important for us to, you know, exist in that way as well.
Et du point de vue de Tom, du point de vue de la production, hein, est-ce qu'il y a des difficultés particulières à trouver des histoires qui racontent ce que j'appelais tout à l'heure une blessure, un pays qui est en la tragédie du peuple aborigène? Est-ce qu'il y a de trouver des créateurs, des réalisateurs qui proposent des histoires un peu comme Dim, etc.
I really believe that the stories have to come from Indigenous First Nation filmmakers themselves. It's not for us to come up with story ideas at all. What I see myself doing is being a facilitator. I'm really helping get these stories made. What I'd like to do is actually make myself redundant, so that there are a lot more Aboriginal producers that feel they're capable enough to actually take over in this particular producing capacity. I think this is starting to happen slowly. I think it should happen quicker. My role, as I see, is transmitting as many skills as I can. I've run some master classes at the film school. I feel comfortable, really, as a collaborator, as a co-producer, not really producing in my own right. The film I'm working with at the moment, that's commissioned by NITV, is in that role, simply as a collaborator, a co-producer. But the story itself is from the people who are the directors and the writers of the film. You know, it's not, they bring the work to me. I don't go out and get the work from them. It's really is important to have it's a power relationship, but it's also a respectful relationship, and it's to do with the whole process of truth-telling as well. It has to be, it has to come up from the bottom, from First Nations people themselves.
Yeah, following up as well, I guess, I think it's really, and it's the breadth of the stories too. I think, and I've made films that tackle tough subjects, but I think it's important that we also make films that celebrate and give ourselves license to laugh or celebrate or have fun, or like the thing that I've just been working on back in Australia is a science thing, like a combination between Aboriginal history and weapons and science, and doing it in a way that's fun and playful and enjoyable. So that I think that's another challenge and that comes back to filmmakers and commissioners, and to not just create hard-hitting content that will get people thinking, but also, like I said earlier, the Trojan horse thing, come to the topic from different directions in terms of content, and be it drama or kids television or whatever. And I think that's, I guess, what you're seeing in NITV is that there is a place for the hard stuff, and it's great to see that. But to go see the films today about surfing was just magnificent. And you can still talk to segregation in the States, and talk to the way that he was treated over there in Hawaii and all around the world. But to use the vehicle of humanity in sport, and it just was really nice to see again. And that comes back, I guess, on the content and the ideas that we can do that in another way that can also bring the topics to the table, but in a different tone.
Est-ce que vous avez l'impression, c'est une question qui s'adresse à tous les trois, que la question aborigène a évolué dans la perception par le pays en Australie et puis par les médias en général? Est-ce que ça a évolué? Est-ce que le combat que vous avez mené et puis que l'on voit ici au FIFO, voilà, est-ce que vous avez l'impression que ça a évolué, ou bien c'est quelque chose qui a plutôt reculé avec les... Voilà.
I mean, that's a pretty complex question. But I think one interesting thing that's happening in Australia is we're having a conversation around the 26th of January. I think that's one little moment or conversation that does go across the media, and I'm getting and again, this is only my perspective, but I'm getting a read that there are some shifts in that space away from that in support of First Nation stories and people. But in saying that, and support to remove Australia Day from January 26th and find a separate day that we can all celebrate. I'm seeing that conversation shift a little bit, I thought, a little bit in the media, but in saying that, I would still argue that there are still a lot of people who just don't care, and a lot of people who it's not their business, they don't care, it's just trouble over here, it'll take care of itself eventually, it'll all go away kind of thinking. And I guess it depends on who the circle of people we mix with in life a little bit, doesn't it?
I think this year we will absolutely see. So this year in Australia we are going to have a referendum. It's the first referendum we've had since 1967 in regards to Aboriginal people, and the one in 1967 was for us to have the right to vote. And to be seen as essentially humans, because prior to that we were seen as part of the flora and fauna. This referendum is about us having a voice to Parliament, and whatever happens, whether it's a yes or a no, it will be a real reckoning, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens, because I don't think at this moment anyone kind of knows. It's not clear that everyone's going to go yes. And I spoke about this on one of the panels yesterday, and there was people from other countries that were just, you know, horrified that our last referendum was only in 1967 for a vote, and that now here we are. Still kind of the debate is up of whether we deserve that voice or not. So this year will be a huge moment for us. I think in terms of storytelling, I think and this industry, I think absolutely we've moved so far. And we've done it not, I think, because there's been this, you know, political or social, you know, welcome. It's because of trailblazers. It's because of the Gulpilils. It's because of the Freda Glynns. It's because of those people fighting, not taking no for an answer. And we have a huge responsibility, and it's wonderful to see now the content out there, and it being so commercially successful as well for filmmakers, and not necessarily always in our own country, but the success that it has internationally. You know, a lot of the time, Australia, you know, mainstream Australia doesn't value us until the rest of the world does, and that's definitely what happened within our fine art industry, and it's absolutely what has happened within the film and TV industry as well.
Peut-être deux ou trois questions pour terminer. D'abord par rapport à l'avenir. Hein. Par rapport à l'avenir, vous êtes dans le milieu de la télévision, de la production, etc. Vous avez l'impression qu'il y a une génération qui arrive et qui va continuer ce combat-là et qui va l'améliorer, etc. Ou vous avez voilà, c'est un peu le sens de la question.
Absolutely. Sitting where I am, I get to see there's some incredible young filmmakers coming out. And the thing that I love to see is, as Dean and Tom were both talking about, you know, our country is really large, and it's really difficult, and we're very different. As tribes, we are really, really different. We have different languages, we have different cultural protocols, where it's, you know, so many unique, and it's, you know, by the nature of what this industry is, for a long time, it's like if you want to be in the industry, you've got to move to a major city. You've got to go to Sydney. You've got to go to Melbourne. You know, for myself, I had to. For ages, I tried to stay home and be able to do it from a distance. Now, thanks to technology, thanks to a whole heap of things and initiatives, you know, we're seeing some great young people that are able to still live on their country, still be with their family, and still be able to produce incredible content. And I think that's really exciting. And they're telling some really beautiful stories and honing their craft. And it's, yeah, I'm super excited by the next generation.
And I'll bring it back to FIFO, because I think that's a really exciting chapter where we're at, where the ability to have filmmakers come together and meet and work together or collaborate. And I think that's what Australia's got a really important role from its film funding bodies and agencies to work with the South Pacific, like encourage to build up the quality of work and build up the quality of practitioners and young women, young men, all who want to have a go at this thing and tell these stories, and recognising the fact that Australia is a really rich country who can afford to do this thing to really help, and not in terms of being the big brother and blah, blah, blah. No, to come together, have these two fantastic groups of filmmakers to learn and share and understand and get greater depth of life and understanding and screen skill. I think it's an amazing chapter and amazing opportunities that lie ahead, and I hope all those sort of the big streamers and all that's going to open up. There's opportunities which are there. It's great. But I see opportunities like this even better to come out and learn, share craft, and form relationships. That's only a good thing, and we need to do more of it. I think from Australia's role in that.
Yeah, you know, Tom was talking about collaboration, and it's so key. You know, collaboration is, you know, filmmaking is a team sport, and I never reference the sports. But you've got to do it together, and we all bring something to the table, and we all work together, and I think that's just building and getting better. And to do it internationally, so at the moment, it's just about to release in Australia. It's already been released in New Zealand. Is a omnibus feature film that crossed, had New Zealand filmmakers and Maori filmmakers, and it's just getting a cinematic release, and it's called We Are Still Here. And it was born out of an idea of Australia is about to do a big celebration to celebrate Cook's arrival, and the concept of doing that and working as a partnership together was about we need a right of reply. You know, while this country celebrates this, it is a difference for us. It's not something that we are necessarily going to celebrate. So how can we respond to that? How can we reply? And I think it's a really strong film, and it's, you know, it's very difficult because co-productions are hard. You know, you've got different bodies, you've got different cultures, you've got all of that, but it can be done, and I'm so excited to see more of that. And I think FIFO is definitely a part of that as well.
I agree. I think what Anusha said, that the film We Are Still Here is a perfect example of collaboration between the various nations that make up the Pacific. I think more of that can only happen in the future, and I think FIFO is an intrinsic part of encouraging that to happen. It's just fantastic. And I agree with what Dean was saying as well. You know, it's just I feel part of this larger community here, and I think more Australian filmmakers hopefully will be able to attend FIFO, and you know, it'll. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, and it's like the Griffith University. Having the university students here is a great step, and more let's give a call out to my old film school, Griffith Film School. But that stuff's important, and it matters, and it can be really. You've got a bunch of young practitioners here at the start of their career, being influenced by this community, your culture, and if that's not good, that's the perfect way to start a career in my mind.
Even last night I was having a chat to Matthias from the film A Boy Called Piano, and we were having a moment about how wonderful last night was and what an amazing experience and how lucky we are to be here. And he just said to me, the power to be here and to see these films, and even when the struggle, the good things and the negative things, to see the similarities is so powerful, to understand how similar we are and how powerful that experience has been for him and for me, and the power in that knowing we're more alike than we know. You know, it's easy to feel separated and not connected, and the power of feeling that we have so many similarities is a very powerful experience.
Merci. Vous parliez tout à l'heure de la Griffith Film School de Brisbane. J'ai vu l'autre soir qu'ils savaient bien danser. Donc, quand on danse bien, ben, on est optimiste sur l'avenir en Polynésie. Mais je voulais simplement vous remercier pour toute la contribution que les histoires du peuple aborigène ont apporté au FIFO depuis le début. Je disais tout à l'heure, parfois c'est par l'art, parfois c'est par la musique, et la plupart du temps c'est pour brosser la situation difficile. Et je crois qu'il y a une sorte de... C'est la raison d'être aussi du FIFO, qui est de dire finalement il faut se battre pour notre visibilité. Il faut qu'on voit ce que nous sommes. Parce que nous sommes des petites îles, nous sommes loin, etc. Pour se comprendre les uns les autres, puis pour savoir ce qu'est l'autre. On ne peut pas discuter si on ne se connaît pas. Et merci beaucoup à tous. Je parle au nom de toute l'équipe du FIFO pour tout ce que vous nous avez apporté d'émotion aussi au sein de ce festival. Merci. Si vous avez un petit mot de conclusion, et puis on va... Dim?
I think it comes back to the opening ceremony when I think yourself, Wallès, said we're a small population, but our voice is important. And I thought that was a really nice way to convey the purpose of this and why this was created so many years ago and still exists today. And I think it resonates. That's a really nice saying that resonates across back to Australia for us, is that we might be a small population and we might be a small voice in terms of numbers, but the value that adds to what we believe and what we work for is really important. And thank you for saying that on the first night. It really struck a chord with me. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à tous. Merci. Et puis donc, le festival continue aujourd'hui. Je crois que samedi, demain, il y a une présentation d'un film sur le nucléaire, un autre sujet qui a été abordé avec un débat. Merci beaucoup à tous.